Hey guys, my guest tonight, Constance Victoria Briggs, will be talking about the moon and its extraterrestrial history. See you in about 5 minutes. Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust. Turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. Hey, 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 happy Thursday, everybody. You just about survived a whole week, especially me. I wish I was still on vacation. I had so much fun last week. Can't even imagine, man. It was just crazy. Filming, that was a new experience for me, was too. I'm used to going out live with this show and doing stuff for this show, but not used to going out live like that to thousands of people just hand holding my phone. That was the experience to behold. My name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your host for the next hour, and I'm also the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team based out of Sacramento, California. We're 45 strong, and our team members are spread up and down the state. That's because I want to help you. If you got a paranormal thing going on in California, we can get to you. It might take us a couple hours because California is a big state, but we do have people within range. Also, we have affiliate teams in Hawaii, Oregon, Washington, and Nevada. So if you need any help. Best way to find us is Facebook. You just type in California Haunts and you'll get multiple pages. There's a California Haunts radio page, California Haunts Ghostly Events, California Haunts Team, California Haunts. We're everywhere. We're everywhere. You want to find us over on Instagram? That's my account at GhostyGal. That's all lowercase. You want to find us on TikTok for you guys that are coming over from TikTok to watch the show? That is California Haunts, and it's all lowercase. And of course, we're on Twitter under Cal Haunts. So that's how you find us. We're everywhere. I think I might have forgot something. I don't know. Senility. Anyway, I want to welcome you all tonight. We've got a great guest, and I've been wanting to get this lady on for a while because I'm like everybody else. I'm fascinated with these stories of like buildings and stuff on the moon that are hidden down on the dark side of the moon and things like that. So my guest tonight, Constance Victoria Briggs, has a book on the topic. Not so much that, but ancient extraterrestrials and the moon. So it's kind of all linked together. So I'm really excited to have her on tonight. If you're watching from YouTube, please be sure to hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, there's that little guy in the bottom right-hand corner over there, the ghost with the magnifying glass and the Sherlock Holmes hat. And please click on him, and that'll get you to subscribe if you haven't done that already. Okay, we've got more than 520 shows over there that we put down to bed, and I think you're going to find something that you like. I'm a journalist. I'm a photojournalist. I don't like to always stick with scary topics and paranormal stuff. I like to vary. So I will talk about spousal abuse. I'll talk about different crimes and things like that. So I think there's something over there for everybody to watch. If you're watching from Facebook and you haven't done so already, hit that like button, hit that follow button. The more the merrier. Anyway, now that that's all done, that mouthful is done. I think I covered everything. I can't wait to have Constance on, so I'm going to bring her in, and she can tell you about herself better than I can. At least it's a name I can't screw up, right? Constance Victoria Briggs, like everything else. Anyway, here we go. I'm going to bring her in, and let's get this show on the road. Hello.
Hello, Charlotte. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing pretty good, thanks. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
I'm real excited to get you on. It's a topic that I'm really interested in.
Good, good. We've been trying to do this for a while. Life keeps getting in the way.
Yep. So tell me about you.
Okay, so my story's a little bit interesting. I'll make it a long story really short. I have always been interested in metaphysical topics, and I started out writing on things like angels and spirituality and God, and it kind of led me to some interesting stories coming across my desk. Charlotte, when you're in this kind of uh, uh, fringe, what they call fringe field, I don't really think it's fringe. You see a
Right.
lot of things. And so I always, in addition to my metaphysical life, I had a curiosity as to whether or not we are alone in the universe. And I also have a love for anything science, sci-fi, and cosmic. So I had this one story, this one book that I stumbled upon in researching another book, and it was titled "Our Mysterious Moon" by a ufologist named Don Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And being the Star Trekkie that I am, it looked really interesting. Oh, there's a book about the moon. There's something going on with the moon. I wonder what that could be about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, little did I know that that book would introduce me to a topic that would, just open up a lot of interesting information about Earth's closest planetary neighbor. All
Mm.
right. So that was my how I got interested in the moon. It was through that one little book, and but it, like I said, it fed my passion to the topic of life in outer space. UFOs. I'm a person that have always believed they're out there. I've seen one, and so anyway, so I decided once I came across this book, I read it and I was shocked at the information. And I decided after reading it, that people need to know about this stuff. So what has happened, is basically there was a lot of information that came out in the 60s and 70s that people have forgotten about, or they're too young to have heard about, or they weren't paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
So my research has gone from basically what I was learning from the 60s all the way to today of things going on with the moon. And actually, I can even say that the research stems, even though Our Mysterious Moon was written in the 70s, the research by NASA, they had done research from the 1600s, which I will tell you about.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. Well, I've read stuff online and different things about there, being civilizations that went at one time around the moon. I mean, what's the background and truth in any of that?
Yeah. So, huh, basically, if I can just say that that's going to be news to some people because some people don't believe it and they've never heard that information, Charlotte. Some people
Hmm.
have never heard that there are structures on the moon and a civilization on the moon. But leading into answering your question, I
Sure.
just want to say that all of us were taught as kids that the moon is dead. There's nothing going on with the moon. There could be no civilization because it's too hot,
Hmm.
and then it's too cold at night. It's too hot in the day, which of course the days last, several days, and the night lasts several days as well. So we've been taught that nothing could be going on up there. And Charlotte, I just like to say before answering that question
Sure.
that the scientists still do not have an answer as to where the moon came from. So this kind of leads all up into the civilization kind of thing. They don't topic. They don't know where the moon came from. So if there are people out there that think they know, NASA's website, the latest thing they have is what we call the giant impact theory, where they believe that the moon, well, they're saying that they kind of believe it, but not really sure that the moon was smacked into the Earth,
Hmm.
and that the parts of Earth spewed out into outer space and informed the moon from this big planet hitting it. The planet they are saying was named Theia, and it was the size of Mars, and it hit the Earth, and that's how the moon was formed. They call it the giant impact theory. That's what the latest and greatest theory. But even on the NASA website, they're saying, well, we think maybe that's how it came to be. They're not committed. I grew up thinking that the moon was captured in Earth's gravity, and that's how it got here. It was an asteroid or something that
Hmm.
was captured. They discounted that, and there were three others that they discounted. So I just want to say they don't know where the moon came from. All right.
Okay.
So, leading up to answer your question, there are stories. This has really excited me. There are stories in our background that maybe some people have heard about that were written by philosophers and ancient philosophers and writers who talked about a time when there was no moon in the sky. All right. They said that Venus was the only thing in, well, Venus shined the brightest in the sky at night. So there was a time that they were saying there was no moon in the sky. All right. So there are ancient stories that talk about the moon coming in to Earth. Okay, I'm still getting to your
Hmm.
civilization question. All right, it's a long-winded answer.
No
Um,
problem.
oh, good. so, um, so there are stories from different cultures that back up what the philosophers were saying about a time. There was a time where people ran free in Greece's history. It talks about the Arcadians. These were wild people where you would expect them to be. They lived before the Sumerians, the Egyptians. They lived before Mesopotamia. They lived before the worship of Jupiter. So it goes way back in our history that they said this. But if you come forward, you'll see that there's a tale out of Bolivia, a sun gate in Bolivia, that talks about a time when the moon came in. It's written in symbols, and it says that when the moon came in, there were storms on the earth and earthquakes, and it created chaos and havoc. All right, and this thing is still standing today. You can, be a tourist and go see it. They thought that this it's a sun gate. So it's a monolith with a doorway, and around the doorway is this writing talking about the moon. And it is believed that this monolith was a part of an observatory in ancient times. And so they kept records of this. And so they're saying that this moon, our moon, wasn't always there and it came in. Um, so if you move up through history and you look at some of the things that have been discovered up there, and I'll go to the structures now.
Sure.
So we've seen, the I know that some people don't believe that we went to the moon, but I do. So I talk about the things that have been found up there. So the lunar orbiters that were sent up by NASA. Um, Took pictures of things that look like pyramids,
Hmm.
buildings that have been blown apart, ancient buildings, I should say, that with columns that look like they were blown apart and they're in pieces. But there are some structures up there that are completely intact, like there are some monoliths
Hmm.
that they call those the Blair cuspids. Those are very famous. Um, There's things like bridges up there, partial walls up there, all kinds of things that look as though there was a civilization at one time on the moon. All right. So, we can only imagine that if the moon wasn't there, always there, maybe there was a civilization somewhere else, out there on the moon. And the theory is that the moon may have been, that spaceship moon theory, that the moon is a structure that was created perhaps to have been used as a Noah's Ark for a planet or a civilization that was dying out there and needed to escape. And they created the moon to live in, and I guess maybe at some point they were on it. We don't know if,
Hmm.
if those structures are since they came to be in Earth's uh, orbit, which I kind of think they were. My personal theory is that this thing was created and hollowed. It was a hollowed out planetoid that served as a Noah's Ark for a civilization, and it was sent across the universe, and it came to be in Earth's orbit. So yeah, that is part of my answer. I have more to that, but I don't want to do all the talking. So
Right, right, right. So I've heard stories. I had a gentleman on here who claimed that he was taken by aliens in his teens and trained on the moon, on the dark side of the moon, and then transferred to some other planet. Do you know anything about any of that?
so that would be, I guess, something about the secret space program. I
Right,
don't
right,
know a whole lot about it.
sure,
I don't know how I'm feeling about that.
right.
Now, as far as being taken up there, I mean, we have stories that there are bases
Hmm.
on. Of course, we've all heard the stories that there are bases up there on the dark side. One of the Apollo missions, they went around to the first time they orbited the moon and went all the way around the back. They were out of touch with mission control for an hour. And when they were back there, they picked up some strange noises that they call them music space music or whatever, but they were really strange static and things they shouldn't have been hearing back
Mhm.
there. And you have to wonder, where was that coming from? Was there some kind of base out back there? Was it an alien base? Was there a base back there from the secret space program? Who knows?
Right.
But something is going on. But I don't know much about
Okay.
the whole abduction thing, and
Yeah,
or
no
or,
problem, no
or,
problem.
or working for them.
Well, let's talk about your studies. I mean, when you started to look into this stuff, was it easy to find the information that you were looking for, or was it kind of hard where you had to pick here, pick there, pick there?
So I've written two books. So when it came to the Moon Mysteries book, that book was it took a year to write it. Was it easy? No. Did I have to pick and find things? That was the Moon Mysteries book. Yes. It was a lot of information, and yeah, I had to go searching. That book was designed from A to Z so that people could quickly go in and look up mysteries of the moon,
Mhm.
of what's going on up there. And then the moon's galactic history came along because people wanted something deeper, and they wanted to hear my voice, and they wanted to hear the voice of other experts. So I have a lot of people in the book that I quoted and gave information about. But yeah, it took some digging for the moon's galactic history, and it was a whole lot of fun to write. I have to say, as serious as it is, I enjoy doing it.
What have you found out? In the research that you've done, what is the most significant thing that you have found out?
That wow,
Mhm.
that we didn't get very far in our space travel
Mhm.
adventure before we bumped into someone out there.
Mhm.
All right. All of the Apollo missions were followed by UFOs or strange lights. So, that tells me A, we're not alone in the universe,
Mhm.
and B, they're really close and they have been this whole time and we didn't know it.
Mhm.
So I think that was the most significant thing. I think it proves to me, at least, that with all the strange things going on with the moon, and I haven't even talked about those yet,
Sure.
that it proves that we're not alone in the universe.
Well, when we talk about these our own spacecraft being followed, I know there's a video out there of one of the astronauts who shot video footage of something out there.
Yeah. So there's gosh, there actually are a lot of pictures that were shot by the astronauts, and um, so I'm not sure which one you are referring to,
Right.
but the astronauts have, oh gosh, they have pictures of like things that look like probes working around them. There are some strange blue lights that were appearing on a couple of the missions in the sky and next to them, and they look like they may have been probes. Um, there were lights that you can see above the astronauts while they were on the surface. They have, pictures of pyramids, things that look like uh, someone was excavating on the moon.
Hmm.
There are pictures of what they kept, and they talked about them like in NASA in transcripts. If you go and look at those transcripts, you can read some of the dialogue, and I have dialogue in both of my books where they were looking at things like, "Oh, that looks like a crystal structure," or "Oh, those are lighted domes. Where's that light coming from?"
Mhm.
Lighted domes. Oh, I bet if someone is down there, what are those campfires? Look like campfires. Were people using them for campfires? Those are not direct quotes, but words for that effect.
Right. Right.
Um, they were talking about in some of the transcripts some things that they saw. You have to remember that on all of the missions that went up, everything was recorded,
Mhm.
so you can just go and look at this stuff. It isn't hidden. We hear that some of the pictures were destroyed, but that's not true of everything. Um, so yeah, and you might be referring to a video that came out of what we refer to as the Apollo 20 hoax. I don't
Mhm.
know if that's what you're talking
I think
about.
it might be, yeah.
Yeah, that was astounding, right?
Right.
Be- because if you look at that, so the Apollo 20 never, according to what we know, it never occurred. We went up to Apollo 17. There
Mhm.
was plans for 18, 19, and 20. They said that never happened, that they were cut short. But and a gentleman named, I think it was William Rutledge, out of, he was an astronaut, he says, uploaded a few years back some video that he says he went up in a secret mission sent out by NASA and Russia on a collaboration, and that they took all this video of the ship that they were in. They went to look for, and then they entered. They have video of an alien girl, and they have video of the inside the ship, and they had video of a city on the moon.
Hmm.
And if you look at this stuff, and you can just go on Google and look on it, look for it, it looks really, really authentic. Even the space shuttle that they were in, they took footage of. And I tell you, I mean, whoever, if this was a hoax, whoever put this thing together had to spend a lot of money because they had to have access to a space shuttle, and then they had to, put Apollo 20 logos everywhere, and it's just bizarre. So maybe that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, yeah. That was really some bizarre stuff. So when we talk about weird things on the moon, let's see if we can talk about some of that.
All right, so I'd like to start with what is referred to as transient lunar phenomena.
Okay.
All right. Sometimes it's referred to as lunar transient phenomena. This is the strange lights and objects that have been seen moving across the moon since the 1600s. All right. So our astronomers, going back to the time of the telescope being created, have seen lights on the moon. And when I say lights, I don't just mean a light here and there.
Mhm.
I mean a like different kinds of lights, tons of them, different colors, different sizes. They see them from anywhere from a few minutes to a few hours. They've seen them in craters. They've seen them moving across the surface. They have even seen them during lunar eclipse. And at that time, in those early days, I don't think that they were thinking space flight. So they just referred to them as lights. Today, we refer to those lights as UFOs.
Mhm.
So they were seeing, I don't know, let's just, for example, say a red light in one of the craters sitting there, and then it would move and come out of the crater. They say, oh, I saw a strange light. But today we would say that's a UFO. All right. So
Mhm.
these things have been seen since the 1600s moving forward. And they were so prominent that NASA, before NASA sent any men to the moon, they did a study. They did 3 studies, and one of the studies is titled they put it in the NASA Lunar Technical Report. So they created this report that it was classified at the time that put all of the astronomers from that period way back to today of what they saw, how long they saw it, the days and the times that they saw it, and some of them said they saw lights, some said they saw fog and mist. One of the astronomers reported seeing. I'm not sure that's in the. I may be getting that a little confused, but there was an astronomer who talked about seeing what he thought were insects, like a flock of birds or insects moving across the moon.
Hmm.
And he talked about. I can't remember if that's in the technical report, but the report does. So I guess my point is, um, NASA. There were so many things going on that NASA commissioned reports before the astronauts went up.
Mhm.
And it's my opinion that they knew, of course, there was something going on with the moon. They may have even known that there were extraterrestrials on the moon, but they weren't talking about it.
Mhm.
All right. Because they've got, I mean, this is the report. You can get this little thing on Amazon. I don't mind showing people. It's like $5 declassified. I've heard that, they kind of regret declassifying this report now. But
Mhm.
anyway, so that's one of the things going on with the moon. Even to today, we're still seeing strange lights that can't be explained. But with the cameras that we have, people are now referring to them as UFOs. They're seeing UFOs flying around the moon, and I've seen some of this video And sometimes they're like these black objects moving around. Some of them look like they're coming out of the moon, which
Mhm.
goes back to the possibility that there is still a civilization on the moon, which I would love to talk about a little bit more, Charlotte.
Sure, absolutely.
So and what looks like fleets of UFOs leaving the moon, and we can only ask ourselves, what are they, or where are they coming from? No, not where are they coming from. Where are they going? When you see something that looks like a fleet of UFOs leaving the moon, are they coming to Earth? That's my question. And I asked someone recently, do you think they're the UAPs? And they said no, because there's so many theories about these UAPs that the government's talking about. Some are saying that they may be biological entities that live in Earth's atmosphere. Some of them are saying they're coming from a different country. Some of them are saying the UAPs are UFOs that are extraterrestrial. So they don't know. But I wonder if those UAPs are coming from the moon, because when you're seeing UFOs leaving, where are they going? And with all of the UFOs that we're seeing around Earth today, it is not a stretch to think that they're coming from, this planetary body or this structure that is so close to us.
Absolutely fascinating. Now let's talk about that. You were talking about that there's possibly still beings on the moon, right?
Exactly. Yes. And this I find very exciting. Some people find it a little frightening. Some people say it's far fetched. But
Mhm.
if so, what we have learned in talking about the origin of the moon is that the scientists don't know if it's real. It looks like it's not a natural satellite.
Mhm.
It's not only looking like it's not natural, that it didn't just come here or become a part of Earth, that it was deliberately created and placed here. That this thing is a structure. And going back to that spaceship moon theory, there were two. And I'm going somewhere with this, Charlotte. Sometimes
That's okay.
it's a little
Take your
long-winded.
time. It's all good.
So there was there were two scientists that came forward in the 1970s, and they were Russian. They were Soviet scientists.
Mhm.
They worked for the Soviet. They worked for the government, and they had a lot to lose by putting this theory out there, but they did it anyway. So basically, and I'm going to try to make sure I have this quote here.
Sure.
Yeah. So these two scientists said they thought the moon is a spaceship. Maybe that's where Don Wilson got the title of the book. I don't
That's
know.
fascinating.
All right. But these two Russian scientists said they looked at, this was in the 70s, they looked at the information that the NASA astronauts had brought back. One of it was that the elements, the dirt, the rocks, or whatever it is, the dust that they brought back from the moon didn't add up. That what they were finding was that they they found a lot of elements that were very hard to come by. Things like titanium and zirconium and chrome. I can't pronounce all these scientific words, but they basically were saying that they think the moon is made up of elements that make it tough
Hmm.
and hard to penetrate, and that it looks like it was created to be able to withstand heat, radiation,
Mhm.
meteor bombardment, because they also looked at the craters, and they were saying that the craters, no matter how hard the moon was hit, that they didn't put much of a dent in it. They
Mhm.
all seemed to be around 2.5 miles deep, and that could come from some of the moon dust on the moon out there too. That basically it's not penetrating whatever's underneath
Mhm.
that moon-like substance that's on the top. So they looked at that, and and they were really excited about the idea of the moon might maybe being hollow. You see, we all have heard. I mean, even people who don't buy into any of this, we've all heard that the astronauts sent their ascent stage, a part of their vehicle,
Mhm.
their spaceship, into the moon twice on two different missions, and that when they did, the moon reverberated. The term they used was that it rang like a bell, but it didn't really ring; it just shook
Mhm.
from it being hit, and that should not have happened. And that is something that when it first happened, NASA astronauts, I mean scientists, people had to come out and do a press release about the whole Apollo 11 mission, Apollo, all the missions. They had to press a release. They had to make statements, press conference, and they said, "Yeah, it reverberated. We don't know why. It shouldn't have happened. It
Mhm.
looks like it's hollow, but that shouldn't be the case." So it looks like it is. So the Russian scientists looked at this thing and they said, "You know what? It looks like it's not real, and there's something inside of it." And I'll read you their quote.
Sure.
And after, I want you to think about this as you're listening, because it sounds like there were people inside of this thing. It says, "It is more likely that what we have here is a very ancient spaceship, the interior of which was filled with fuel for the engines, materials and appliances for repair work, navigation instruments, observation equipment, and all manner of machinery. In other words, everything necessary to enable it to serve as a Noah's Ark of intelligence, perhaps even as a home of a whole civilization, with a idea of a prolonged, perhaps thousands of millions of years existence and long wanderings through space." Now, that sounds like there could be someone in there. All
Sure.
right. And of course, it could have just been computers, but that someone sent and they're monitoring. But this sounded like a lot more to the astronauts than that. And I'll
Mhm.
tell you, there is a tale out of Africa from the Zulu people who explained how the moon came to be. And they said they called the moon an egg. And they said it was hollowed out. This egg was hollowed out. It was, and it was sent millions of years ago across or millions of billions of years ago across our universe and placed in Earth's orbit. Now, to me, that sounds like they're saying it was a planet, a hollowed out planetoid,
Mhm.
and it was sent here. Why was it sent here? But it also sounds very much like the Soviets. Um, what they were thinking. So what we could have here, Charlotte, just may be a civilization that's living inside that was escaping some kind of catastrophe,
Mhm.
and they ended up here or came here on purpose. And they could still be there. Maybe at one point they were on top of the surface. We
Mhm.
don't know what kind of capabilities extraterrestrials would have that could build a megastructure and send it across the universe. So when we say, the scientists changed the science, basically, they said, because in the 1600s moving forward, those astronomers were saying, there's someone up there. We
Mhm.
believe it, it's populated. All right. It was scientific fact uh, in the early days of the telescope, up until our scientists, modern scientists, changed it and said, no, 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 it's too hot for anyone to be up there. It's too cold, at night for anyone to be up there. But still, they've got things that look like structures. They've got movement. They've got lights, and they have what looks like fleets of UFOs leaving. So it looks like someone's there, Charlotte.
When you're doing your research, is all this stuff declassified now, or do you have to go through certain channels or know people to get this information?
No, it's not. It's not I mean, it's not classified.
Okay.
A lot of the stuff I'm talking about is right from NASA. All right, it's just that what happens is people don't care
Mhm.
or they don't know, because all of these people who were living during the time of the astronauts going up, most of them have died off.
Right.
All right. And so the young people today don't know. And unless you're listening and following, there are people all over the place with telescopes that are reporting this information. All right. So it's not hard to find it. There's Google Earth now, and you can go look closer at the moon. And, there's been a couple of people who found what looked like humanoids up there. All right. So it's not classified. But I think because people are not as interested, I don't think that, the higher ups are that concerned because most people think it's just myth,
Hmm.
you know. And what are they going to do? I mean, they can't just hide it all.
Hmm.
You know how, everyone's looking at the moon now and people are finding stuff.
Hmm.
So no, it's not classified, not anymore. But I will tell you that working for the space agency, I believe they do have to sign agreements to not report or talk about things. They do. Now, the International Space Station has they've come across UFOs, and no, I don't hear any of them talking about it. They're live. It amazes me that they're live and people
Right.
see things. They see them, but those guys up there can't talk about it. So yeah, I don't think it's classified, but I don't think anyone's talking about it because they're just not aware. And I personally would love to see us, because I'm a Trekkie. I would love to see us enter a space age time in Earth's history,
Hmm.
and I think that it is important to keep conversations like this alive and going and trying to figure out things out there.
Absolutely. Now, and all the photos and stuff that you've seen of the moon's surface, which one sticks out most to you?
The pyramids. Oh my God. The pyramids and the monoliths the monoliths um were literally we couldn't see them, but these were shadows of, I don't know, seven monoliths together, and they all look like the Washington Monument. It's very interesting. But then the pyramids, and I'm going to tell you why this fascinates me. And because it looks like there was a connection to Earth. What you're seeing, if you're looking at pyramids that look very much like the pyramids in Giza,
Hmm.
you have to ask, was there something going on in ancient times? Because the writings from India, the Sanskrit writings, talk about a time when, and people think this is myths. It's not myth. They talk about a time where in Earth's past, we had the ability of flight. It said that the gods would build these machines and they could go back and forth.
Hmm.
Um, and people were used to seeing flying machines back then. They could go back and forth to the moon, I mean. And
Hmm.
it says further than the moon. And so, what's interesting about this is that they were able to describe their spaceships in detail. And it talks about the power that they used to run these things.
Hmm.
So if you had in ancient times stories of people going to the moon around that time of Egyptian history and ancient Greece and ancient Rome, and then you're finding things that resemble it up there. You're wondering was that because that was the architectural style of the day, and they were able to go up there and place structures on the moon.
Hmm.
And was the moon, and was there a time when it was here that there, could have been an atmosphere? Now, what's weird is that we have contactees who claim to have gone to the moon, and they say, oh, that's not an atmosphere. You were totally being lied to. We did see plants up there. There is color up there. It's not like we have been told. So your question, I think, was um, I forgot the question, but anyway, oh yeah, that was the most fascinating
Right.
thing to me because it looks like we had a connection from ancient times. And there's a gentleman named Mike Barra who did a lot of studying of the structures on the moon,
Hmm.
and he has led me to believe in some of the things that he talks about is that there was possibly a war on the moon. I don't remember if he said war, but he said it looked like some things to him had been blown apart. So some of the meteorites are some of the craters are not craters for meteorites. Some of them look like they are from nuclear blast.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah. And there are places on Earth that long before we had nuclear weaponry here, it looks like there had been a nuclear war. And it just, it's all this is theory, but since we possibly had that time where we had the ability to fly, and we don't remember that part of history where we were advanced, and maybe a calamity came and destroyed it, and we had to start over again. But maybe there was a time where we could go back and forth, and um, we did have maybe we had a war. And like I was going to say, it's theory that there may have been a war either between the worlds, because Mars is looking like it's got some things going on that looks like there was a war too. Was it a war between the three? Or were the three fighting some unknown foe out there? But that is a connection, and it's a mystery, and it's unexplained, but it's worth looking into because it looks like a time in Earth's history more than once mankind has had to start again. And we may have reached a point technologically, according to the ancients, where we could, we had nuclear weaponry, it looked like, and we could fly.
Well, it makes sense because when you look back through history, all the great civilizations disappeared. You know, you
Yes.
had the Mayans, you had the Romans. Everything disappeared for some reason. It's like they got as far as they could with their technology, and either they did themselves in, or it just got to the point where they couldn't grow anymore, and then everybody disappears.
Yeah, you know what's scary, Charlotte, is did they do it themselves in or did someone do it in?
Right. Absolutely.
Did we
Absolutely.
reach a point and then someone has come back and boom, made us start again? See,
Mhm.
I think that we owe it to ourselves to investigate these things
Mhm.
and keep the conversations going because I don't believe we're alone in the universe. I like I said, we didn't get very far before we ran into someone, which is
Mhm.
why the moon is so important. And people should look into this themselves, do your own research, and see what you find, see what you think, talk about it.
The other thing I find interesting is, there's a lot of reports too of people that have spoken, that have been abducted, gotten taken, and the aliens are telling them that they're watching us to watch our technology because they don't want us to destroy ourselves this time.
Right, right. So in the Earth's Galactic Moon book, I talk about some of those things. I
Mhm.
just gave you one of the theories of what the moon could
Sure.
be. It's a lot in the book, but one of them is that perhaps the moon has extraterrestrials extraterrestrials up there that are watching our progress, and for two reasons. Maybe they have an interest in us because we're part of an original civilization and they're watching us. Because I tell you, with all the stuff, we don't have enough time to go into, but with all the stuff that happened with the astronauts going up, it looks like we were watched. They knew
Mhm.
they were coming. All
Mhm.
right. The other thing is the possibility the moon has extraterrestrials that are Earth's protectors or
Mhm.
guardians in there, and they are, and maybe that's because we did have a history of being attacked. Who knows? But that
Right.
they may be watching and to see what we're going to do with nuclear weapons. There are stories of extraterrestrials visiting governments on Earth and saying that they don't want us to use the nuclear weapons. They don't want us to kill all of life off on Earth. They won't let us do it, and they could be watching from the moon. So that is a theory, Charlotte. And also, uh, there's another idea that the moon may be a stopover point for extraterrestrials who are passing through,
Sure.
and may be on their way to Earth, and they're stopping there for whatever reason, for fuel, for who knows, for meetings. That's an interesting one. Some also, I use the term a duck blind, and I guess that goes along with just being watched. But a duck blind, being that we're a duck blind is when hunters go hunting. All
Mhm.
right, not that they're hunting us, but I use that term because they make the duck blind look like it's a part of the area, so
Sure.
that the animal, right. So the moon may be covered with this moon substance to make it look like some kind of natural element,
Mhm.
a natural planet, natural body to us. but we're really being watched for any number of reasons. And one of those is because it may be a point where extraterrestrials are not only reporting on watching us and reporting, but maybe other planets as well and other planetary bodies nearby as well, and reporting back to whomever, maybe the seeders of the earth and the seeders of creation, or maybe possibly someone who may have done some terraforming, that may be a place that's like a base for them to report back to another source, and they're watching.
Going back to your duck blinds, I have heard that from people I've interviewed about the aliens that live here on Earth. The ones
Yeah.
that are living underground, how they have the ability to mask their ships, so we don't see them, or we see them as a helicopter. Like natural stuff that we're used to. So your theory about the duck, that on the moon makes a lot of sense.
Thank you. Thank you. um, what I find interesting as well is that whole hollow moon theory,
Hmm.
because the astronauts talked about their. It seemed like there were some of the craters were endless, they're bottomless, and that those would have been great places for ships to be coming and going from, inside the moon. But also the fact that when we look at Mars today, Mars' two moons, they're saying that they think they may be hollow. And then, of course, we all know the stories of the hollow Earth. Well, I don't know if everyone knows them, but I talk a little bit about the hollow Earth in my Galactic History
Hmm.
book, because I've tied it in this whole thing together, and that there may be something about hollow Earth, hollow Moon, hollow Phobos. That there could have been a whole extraterrestrial advanced race that put this all together, and there could be beings living on the inside of
Hmm.
all of these planetary bodies. And in fact, someone has suggested that finding structures on the moon would be interesting, because there's probably, but not finding the beings themselves, because they're probably on the inside coming outside. And they were saying that we on Earth are probably living inside out, that it's safer for Earthlings to be living inside the Earth than on the top, because there's so many dangers on top. And that was you know,
Right.
a theory, but I find it fascinating, all these hollow planet theories, you know. Um, so did you have a question? Because I can go on.
Oh, Judith, go ahead and go on. I'm fascinated by all this.
So one of my favorite stories is that of Gene Roddenberry, who's the creator of Star Trek.
Hmm.
Have you ever heard anything about him, Charlotte?
I'm a huge fan of his. Yes.
Oh, okay. So the story is that he was sitting in on channel sessions about channel sessions from extraterrestrials, advanced extraterrestrial beings. He was sitting in, and these beings who have been said now, I'm hearing that they were part of Galactic Federation, but these beings at that time were saying they were traveling the universe, they were from different worlds, and they were out there to help. And the theory is that he was inspired to write Star Trek from those channeling sessions. All right. Now, in one of his, in one of my favorite uh, shows of his, For the Moon is Hollow and I Have Touched the Sky, I talk about it in my book. He had an asteroid on there. He had written a script about an asteroid, and it was a generational ship where the people in this asteroid had been sent across the universe, and they were on their way to a planet to make a new home because their planet was being destroyed. And they had been on that thing for thousands of years. And the Star Trek crew thought it was an asteroid on a collision course to one of the Federation planets, and they beamed down to this thing, and lo and behold, they find structures on top of this asteroid. And then they went inside. There was an elevator going down, and it was a hollow, and it had a civilization inside. So I wonder how much Gene Roddenberry actually knew and how much
Mhm.
he gleaned from those, because that's the same theory
Mhm.
as the moon and the Earth.
Mhm. Mhm.
Did he know about it?
He was a genius, that's for sure, because a lot of the stuff that he came up with ended up becoming reality. And
That's right.
where did he get that information from to do that? I mean, granted, somebody has the imagination, but some of the stuff that he came up with, I mean, we're using now at the airport, like the body scanners and all this other stuff. So I don't know. I've heard a theory out there that some of these people that like Gene Roddenberry, that are, we're going to say seers, these people that write this stuff, some of them have either been abducted by aliens and they're being fed the information, or they're star children.
See, that I've been wondering that myself. I've been wanting to do the research because
Hmm.
on the writers and who they are
Hmm.
after he passed away, because I know Gene had a lot of information.
Hmm.
But the people after that, the one, did, yeah, it would make sense because it's thought that Star Trek and a number of other science fiction shows are a means of us being educated
Hmm.
and prepared for first contact and disclosure.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
I think that's a thing, and it makes sense. It makes sense that if you've got advanced beings watching us from the moon or from wherever they are,
Hmm.
and they eventually want us to move into what appears to be a galactic community out there. I don't believe if there are ETs on the moon, I don't believe it's just the moon. I believe they're all over the place.
Hmm.
And we were a new species, and they would like for us to join them, and they're waiting for the masses to become aware, that we're not alone, but they would be educating us slowly. And that would be a way of doing it. Of our science fiction, of reading books and who knows what else. And I do believe, honestly, that there are, and I know people think it's crazy, but I do believe there are extraterrestrials among us doing this work. And I call them the ground troops.
Hmm.
I do believe some are born in, however that happens, but I believe some also have come in here and settled and
Hmm.
are living here and working towards a education process for the masses to finally understand that we're not alone in the universe. And that's why we're all doing this work, Charlotte, you and me and others. We know we'd like to see the conversation move forward.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, my belief is that even on my block where I live, they've probably been here all this time. That way, when that does happen and the introductions do happen when they come, we're already prepped. I mean, it's your neighbor across the street and you don't even know it. You know,
Yes.
it takes the sting out of it.
Yes, and believe me, they're not going to walk up to you unless you're a part of a mission and introduce themselves.
Hmm.
They're not going to risk exposing themselves. We are still a warring planet. All right. Now, I do believe that some are here and are veiled to who they are, and some have awakened and they have their memories and they know they're on a mission. Some are still veiled but they can feel it. Some are, that they know that they're supposed to be here working towards this mission. I mean, it gets to be very complicated, even
Hmm.
when it comes to life after death. All right, that some people, when they're coming in, they're coming in from other planets for work, or they're coming in from other planets for an experience, or they're coming in from the moon even,
Hmm.
and they can be born in. Now, how that's done, I don't know.
Right.
And then when when their, I call it the avatar,
Hmm.
uh, dies, then they are released and they go back to maybe their home planet, not necessarily back to source, but to a planet, where they've been sleeping as
Right.
they come into this life. It's just it gets to be complicated.
Absolutely.
I didn't mean to make it more complicated.
No, that's
Sorry.
okay. Do you think that we're ever going to get the truth about what's going on with the moon?
I do. I think we're going to get it. I don't know that it will be through the Artemis missions.
Hmm.
Okay. I don't know that we can rely on any human facility to give us the truth. I think it may come in other ways from other beings, perhaps, maybe at contact. Maybe if we ever do have some sort of government disclosure, maybe then, yeah. But we'll have to wait on that and see. I think we'll get the answers. I think that there are are beings out there that have the answers to everything we want to know, and eventually we will, but I don't know when that will be.
Hmm. Hmm. What do you say to people, about this? If somebody's curious about, what's going on the moon, and maybe they don't quite believe. What do you say to those people?
Do the research.
Hmm.
Do the research. It's out there. There are all kinds of books, not just my books, out there talking about extraterrestrials and talking. Well, I'll go buy my books, but do the research. Go to the NASA website. Go, Google. I don't know, simple things like blue lights on the moon. You'll get those pictures; they pop up. But yeah, you've got to do your own thing, or you're just not gonna know. That's
Hmm.
why I want to keep the conversation going. Do the research.
What is the most compelling piece of evidence or piece of your research that kept you going in with this?
There's a story out there, and many people have heard it. I was really transfixed with the idea that the Apollo 11 astronauts had literally seen spaceships on the moon.
Hmm.
All right, that story where they were on that medical line talking to
Hmm.
them about it. Okay, so the story is, guys, for you who do not know, Apollo 11, the first mission at Armstrong and Aldrin, who landed on the moon, are said to have seen spaceships sitting on the edge of the crater, and they were freaked out, and they got on a secret medical channel, and they contacted Mission Control, and they were a nervous wreck, and they didn't know what to do.
Hmm.
All right. So when I first heard that story, I thought, okay, that's a mystery. We don't know for sure. Maybe happened, maybe it didn't. But then I found out that a gentleman by the name of Christopher Kraft, who worked with the Apollo 11 astronauts, who is called the father of mission control, came forward and said, yes, they did see those. They did see. Uh, they did see alien spaceships there. They did have that experience. That to me was the most fascinating, intriguing thing, because if you can't trust the father of mission control, who can you trust?
True.
So that tells me, that yeah, that just that just drives home my thought that there's a civilization on the moon.
Absolutely. So what's next for you?
I am writing a book. Oh my God, it is a bear. It is the Earth's galactic history and its extraterrestrial connection. It is a companion book to this last one, and I'm very excited.
Absolutely. How can people
Mhm.
find you?
Pardon me, I've lost my voice.
That's okay.
If you're on Facebook, I have a Moon Mysteries page, where I put information about the moon on there. I also have a page called Constance Victoria Briggs. You can't miss it. It's not my personal page, but the one with the big the Saturn is on it. You
Uh-huh.
can't miss that one. I'm trying to get up. I am on Instagram. I need to get that up and running. I'm not, I haven't been paying a lot of attention. I am on Twitter, trying to get that going better, because I've been so busy. I haven't been able to. But they can go on either one of those two and,
Sure.
find me. Um, yeah. If you want, oh, my website, constancevictoriabriggs.com,
Okay.
www. And you can email me through that. Yeah. You
Fair
can
enough.
get the books on Amazon.
Hmm.
The publisher, Adventures in Limited Press, also has the book. Those are the Ancient Alien people. David Hatcher Childress was the editor on this. I'm very proud of that, because I just, I have a great love for that publishing company and the Ancient Alien show and all of that. So
Fantastic. Constance, thank you so much. We'll have to get you on again when you get done with your next book.
thank you. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed meeting you and talking to you finally.
Yes, finally. All right, ma'am. Thank you so much and have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Bye,
Bye.
Charlotte.
Okay, that was Constance Victoria Briggs. Fascinating stuff. If there are, aliens living on the moon or in the past have lived on the moon. Absolutely fascinating. Tomorrow night is Nancy Matt's night. It's Friday, so we're going to get our casual nights with Nancy. we're going to be talking about spiritual attachments, good and bad, and how they can affect your health and your well-being. So we're going to be talking about that tomorrow night. I want to thank Constance once more for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to show you her information right at the very end like I usually do. Again, if you like what you see today, please be sure to hit the like button and follow, especially if you're over at Facebook or any of the other pages. And if you're at YouTube especially and you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. More subscribers the merrier, right? And hit those like buttons, okay? If you like the show, share it with 5 people. If you hated the show, share it with 5 of your enemies. We are equal opportunity here at California Haunts Radio. And you can visit us. You can see we have over 500, more than 520 videos over at YouTube. And that's at youtube.com/at California Haunts Radio. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. Pacific. And we'll be chatting with Nancy. So here's her information and contact. Here we go. So you website is ConstanceVictoriaBriggs.com, all lowercase. And again, like she says, you can find her on Facebook on 2 or 3 different pages. And the books, The Moon's Galactic History. And then you've got Moon Mysteries, the Encyclopedia of Moon Mysteries, and the Encyclopedia of the Unseen World. The Encyclopedia of Angels, the Encyclopedia of God. And of course, you can get those books at Amazon.com. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Pacific, live. Have a good evening, everyone.